So let's answer your guys' question. Why did I decide a ProCharger? Bow. I'm gonna explain it in this video. Just like I said, we talking about why I went ProCharger. Don't worry about my hood. My hair just kind of busted right now. See, I got the braids in, about to get it redone. Anyway, so I want to tell you guys why I decided on a ProCharger. Is a ProCharger even a supercharger? Is it a turbocharger? What the hell is the thing? And what's the difference between a centrifugal supercharger and a positive displacement supercharger? We'll get into that a little bit because that kind of explains why I decided to go with the ProCharger. Let me start off by telling you exactly the kit that I actually have. So this right here is ProCharger's 50 state legal kit. Now the main thing that makes it a 50 state legal kit is it still uses the factory air box here. I love the way that this setup looks. To me, it looks super, super clean and looks about as close to OEM as you can actually get for a ProCharger and mounting something sitting on the front of the motor. The other one kind of sits back in here with the vent going over here, sucking in the hot air. I don't love that setup. I really like this setup here. Uses factory air box, keep the air a little bit cooler. Most of the air is still coming through the front here, so yeah, I like it. The other thing I went ahead and got with my kit, you can see it peeking out here. I got the Stage 2 intercooler. The Stage 2 intercooler is almost double the size of the standard intercooler that you would get. Obviously, it keeps the air temperatures much cooler. Cooler air temperatures is a cooler motor, but the main thing, more power. Now, the cooler you can get the air that is sucking into your motor, it actually makes the air more dense when it's cold. It's kind of similar to things, and you know how when things heat up, they expand, and when they get cold, they contract? Same thing happens with air. So if you can get densely packed air going into the motor, you're just gonna get more power. So the thing that makes all the superchargers different is the way that they actually make power. And yes, a ProCharger is a supercharger, but it's kind of mixed with a turbo. Let me explain. So a turbo runs off of exhaust gases. That's how it spools up. That's how it makes the power, is the exhaust flowing through there, spooling up the turbo. That's how it works. A ProCharger works similar in that it is basically kind of, I know not exactly, but it's kind of a turbocharger, but it's mounted on your motor and it's ran off of the crank. That is what actually makes it a supercharger. All superchargers are ran off of the crank. A turbocharger is not. Now, if you are to see a ProCharger from the front, it looks exactly like a turbo the way that it looks. But this section here that's driving it, where this back section would be the part that the exhaust gases ran through to spool it up, ProChargers have a belt that run directly off of the crank. So that's what makes it an actual supercharger. Basically, superchargers are always charging because they're ran off of the belt, they're constantly turning, they're constantly pushing out a little bit of air, and ProChargers really don't have that much of a lag. The power builds as you go through the gears, but if you don't think that a ProCharger will knock the tires off in second gear, you're tripping. This thing will still blow the tires off. It's still more than what you can handle on your standard street tires. Which, speaking of, I need to upgrade mine, but you know I got to burn these babies off first. So what makes this different than a positive displacement is a positive displacement takes the place of your intake. And it'll sit right here. It pumps extra air directly into the motor. Centrifugal superchargers do not take the place of your intake. They usually sit somewhere on the front of the motor and they charge up, pump the air through, and it goes into the throttle body here, which goes through the intake. On a positive displacement, you would still keep your factory air box or a cold air intake, and you would take this entire section out. Now, what makes the kits different from each other? Is one kit better than the other kit? Not necessarily. Is one kit harder on the motor than the other? Again, not necessarily. I believe the Magnusons have a thing where basically it allows the air to flow right by the supercharger, and so it doesn't actually pump air into the motor when you're just cruising and under light throttle. Centrifugal superchargers are similar to turbochargers in that when you're just cruising around, you're not actually under boost. Now, I have a bypass valve, which when I'm not under boost, it allows all of the air to escape coming from that supercharger, so it's not packed into the motor and putting more unnecessary stress on the motor. Because when you're just cruising around at light throttle, you don't need all of that power there, you're just cruising. So is there a lag on centrifugal superchargers like a ProCharger? Not really. There is a little bit in that it's not the same as a positive displacement. A positive displacement, you have full PSI, full supercharger power the moment that you put your foot on the throttle. A centrifugal supercharger builds power as it goes through the RPM. So if you're in the car, it's gonna feel like it just keeps pulling harder and harder and harder all the way through that gear. So with everything being relatively the same, they more or less make the same power on all of the base kits. It's basically, how do you want your power delivered? So this may seem a little bit silly, but I have always been in love with turbochargers. Like, I just like the way that they sound. I like the way that it builds power. When I got in a turbocharged car versus a supercharged car, the way that it pulls going through the RPM bands, it just feels different. I know a bunch of you positive displacement guys will probably hop in the comments and say that no, I feel power all the way through the RPM band. Totally agreed. You're not wrong. You're totally right about that. I think the difference is you just don't feel like that power is continually building as you go through the RPM band. I'd say maybe a little bit more the old school guys, they still like the positive displacement. Maybe the new school guys, you could say ProCharger and centrifugal superchargers is like a new school thing. I don't know. I think you see both on both sides. That's just the super generalities, or that's just like really generalizing who buys each one. I've always wanted a turbocharger, but there is no 50 state legal turbocharger kits. Not that I'm scared to skirt around the rules, but when it comes to something as serious as installing a turbocharger or a supercharger, it's a lot different than when it's time to go in smog and you just swap a part out. I don't want to have to swap that out every single time I have to go and get my car smogged, because getting your car smogged in California, that is a very big thing here. And because I can't get a 50 state legal kit, that also means that I can't get a carb sticker. Basically, the only thing I care about, I ain't gonna lie you guys, is just getting that carb sticker, because after that, you could kind of do what you want. When you go to get smogged, they're not gonna know what you've done to the ECU. They don't read none of that kind of stuff. You can basically skirt by as long as you have got that carb sticker. For other parts, I just swap them on and off. For example, my exhaust removes the secondary cats. Again, that's not legal here in California, so I just skirt around that one. Whenever I have to get smogged, I'm just gonna swap them on and off. Now I know my car is new, so the first 6-7 years, something like that, you don't actually have to smog your car here in California. But when I do, or if I get pulled over and they pop my hood, I want to be able to show them that carb sticker, because they're obviously probably going to see the supercharger. I don't want to try to make something up. If I can avoid getting sent to a referee and he doesn't take the time to really inspect all the other parts closer that aren't technically smog legal, then hey, I'm good to go. So I mean, yeah, there's no big secret. There's no I got a super specific reason. In fact, I respect the hell out of people that do have PD setup. I like the PD setups a lot. I was really close to getting one myself, but I just ultimately decided that I like this. Another thing I like is most ProCharger kits, they actually don't require any modification to the car at all. Now mine did require a slight bit of modification. For example, the air shroud's down low, and I had to cut a little bit of the fan shroud, but not really anything necessarily permanent. So not a big deal at all. Well, I did have to cut off the one tab for the cold air intake, but again, not a huge deal. I'm not really sweating it. So yeah, that's what it is. I know I skimmed over things kind of quick in this video. If you guys want me to go into any one detail more, I can break things down more, but this is just kind of a quick video of why I chose a ProCharger. I don't have a crazy answer. It's pretty simple. And like I said, I was that close to going with the positive displacement. So hey, it is what it is, you guys. But this your boy ZT Zoomin. I'm keeping it moving, baby, and I'm out. Peace. I know this isn't like a supercharger fun video out driving and stuff, but I still like to drop these how-to videos. I still like to explain things for you guys. I know I was pretty basic, pretty general, but I just wanted a quick overview.